Friends, today I am going to talk with you on the journey of enactments in labor laws. From where do I begin? Well, let me begin from the year 1600, and 1600 is a time where there were hardly any laws in the present form. There were laws, but in a crude form. And in 1600, there came a company to trade with the East Indies, and the name of the company was East India Company. The Britishers came, they came as traders, then became rulers. Everybody knows this. But then we go further, say 100 years, 150 years from 1600, that is 1757. 1757, I'm sure you have heard words like Battle of Plassey, Mir Jafar, Siraj-ud-Dawla. And the Britishers consolidated their roots in the Indian soil by 1757. I come 100 years from 1757, that is 1857. And in 1857, friends, we saw the first war of Indian independence, or some historians prefer to call it as the national uprising. We had Tatya Tope fighting somewhere, we had Jhansi Ki Rani fighting somewhere, we had Mangal Pandey in Meerut, and India was a segregated battle. And whether any lessons were taken by Indians from this battle or not, nobody knows. But the Britishers certainly took a lesson. That India extends from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, and the then British Queen thought it wise that yes, if at all a country as big as peninsular India is to be ruled, it cannot be left to the vagaries and the whims and fancies of the officers of the East India Company. And that is why we say the Britishers are ruling over us since 150 years, because it is in the year 1857, the ruling of the East Indies came under the suzerainty of the British Crown. Now a simple question arose. How do you rule a country? In order to rule a small company, friends, you require technocrats and computer experts and then chartered accountants and cost accountants and so many people. So what is required to rule a country as big as peninsular India? First, what is required is law itself. And if there are no laws have to be invented, which was exactly done by the then British Queen. She appointed a law commission under the chairmanship of a person called Lord Macaulay. And the duty of the commission was to draft different laws. 1860, we have the Indian Penal Code, which you will be surprised is the same Indian Penal Code which you and me use it in the year 2021. 1861, we had the Criminal Procedure Code coming very fast because see, time is traveling, time is not static, time is not stationary. Time is moving now also. We come to 1872. 1872, we had the Indian Contract Act, which of course it's criticized all over that it's called as the buyer and seller law. The buyer got something, the seller got something. And in that act, there are certain words like consideration or a phrase like quid pro quo, thereby meaning something for something. If I give you something, I must take something from you. And there are workers with me, I am paying them salary, and that is why they have to work with me. If it is so simple, you don't require a labor law. So let me make you understand as to what is labor law right now. Labor law is Indian Contract Act plus Social Security. It is this Social Security which distinguishes labor law from contracts. And Social Security in today's parlance could mean employee state insurance, and it could also mean workmen compensation and all the benefits and provident fund and Social Security legislations and so on and so forth. Coming very fast, I come to 1885. 1885 is a landmark date into Indian legal or labor history. We had the first association which was formed by nobody else than by a person called Narayan Meghaji Lokhande. Narayan Meghaji Lokhande is rightly called as the father of the Indian trade union movement. He was a disciple of a very great social reformer in this part of the country. His name was Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, who used to run a newspaper in Pune called Dinabandhu, that is brother of the downtrodden. And this paper was looked after by Narayan Meghaji Lokhande and some of his colleagues in Bombay. Now you see, the city of Bombay had great attractions. People were either pushed or they were either pulled towards Bombay. People came in search of jobs and business and opportunities and this and that. But when people came to Bombay, they started working in mills, and their service conditions were very pathetic. People were working for 20 hours a day, no safety conditions, female labor was paid less, juvenile labor was paid less. Sensing this, Narayan Meghaji Lokhande took out a huge morcha against the then British government, almost 17,500 people in one morcha, which is no smaller score, especially when the population of Bombay in those days was approximately 10 lakhs. He got many concessions passed. And my admiration for this person called Narayan Meghaji Lokhande grew when I understood one more thing. I always think with myself, which is the best day of my week, and it is a Sunday. When I was a child, Sunday is the best day. When I was in college, again Sunday is the best day. And even today, Sunday is the best day. Why? Because there is no work. Sunday is a holiday. Question is, who started the holiday? It's Narayan Meghaji Lokhande. Who started the 8-hour shift? It is again Narayan Meghaji Lokhande. And we come further. He got all these concessions from the then factories inspector one Mr. Mead King. We come to the 19th century. In 1911, we had a young Indian visiting India from South Africa, and his name was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Yes, Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi came to India, travelled India into a third-class railway compartment to understand as to what is the plight of the Indian farmers and the Indian workers. And while he was understanding India, came 1914. And in 1914, we had the First World War. All our Indian soldiers, rather they were farmers, they were packed into ships and sent to fight on the European soil. And there were battles and fights in, say, Czechoslovakia and Poland and Germany and here and there, everywhere. And a battle or a fight does not mean that you take a gun and fire at each other for 24 hours. There were idle moments in the fight. And then what our Indian soldiers did in the idle moments, they started chatting with their foreign counterparts. Well, what happens in your country? And the foreign counterpart, that is the foreign soldiers, exchanged thoughts with our Indian workers. And they said that in our country, the government gives us lunch and government gives us dinner and tea and this and that and concessions. And Indians were surprised. How do you get it? He said, because we have a union. What is a union? Union is we come together and fight for our rights. When our soldiers came back from the First World War, friends, they brought along with them the gospel of trade unionism. They told our friends here, do you know what's happening on the other part of the globe? People are getting lunch, people are getting breakfast, people are getting tea, people are getting this, and people are getting that. What are you and me getting? Zero. So let's form a union. In the meantime, friends, I again told you, time is not static, time is flowing. Time flowed, we come to 1917, when we had the Red Revolution in Soviet Russia. At that point of time, a book was written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, and I'm sure you know the book. That is the Communist Manifesto. Communism was propounded in that book, that each according to his abilities and each according to his needs. You will work as per your ability and you will take as per your needs. And Indians, some of the Indian trade union leaders went to Soviet Russia, took lessons into trade unionism, and when they came back, again, that was an infusement of communist ideas into Indian trade unionism. The result was in 1919 we had the first major federation in India, that was the ITAC. ITAC is All India Trade Union Congress, which is a communist dominated body. And in those days we had the Indian National Congress. In 1919 when there was ITAC, the Indian National Congress also formed their federation, which is called as the INTAC. INTAC is Indian National Trade Union Congress, which has its presence even today. And then our Indian leaders joined hands, rather helped the British to formulate different labor laws. And in 1923 we had the Workmen Compensation Act. This is the same Workmen Compensation Act which today is the Employers Compensation Act. And say, let me give you a small example. Say my hand is stuck in a machine and I am a worker. I am a right-handed worker, my hand is cut. Why should my employer pay me the compensation? My employer has not taken my hand and put in the machine. But yet there is some fiction of law which will make it compulsory, make it binding on the employer to pay me the compensation if at all I am his worker. And the accident rose in the course of and out of the course of employment. We come further. 1926 we had the Trade Unions Act. How is a trade union formed? Who is the treasurer? Who is the secretary, who are the members, what is the constitution, everything is laid down. Again, time flowed further. 1936, we had the Payment of Wages Act. How are wages to be made? Whether in currency or in coin, or whether it is to be, whether the workers are to be paid by way of barter. When are they to be paid? Everything is laid down in the Payment of Wages Act 1936. We again go further. 1942, we had the Chale Jao Andolan, or the Quit India movement, and in 1946, another major legislation was passed, which is called as the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946. Standing orders means they are rules which are applicable to your organization for the workmen. In school, there were some rules which were applicable to us. In college, you had a roll number, I had a roll number, we had divisions. When people come in industry, some rules will be applicable. What are those rules called? Those rules are called as standing orders. 1947, I am sure, 15th of August, everybody knows, India became independent. But the sky was murky. There were no laws, no proper labor laws, I mean. And that is why, on the eve of the Indian independence, the Industrial Disputes Act 1947 was passed. Who is a workman? What is an industry? What is an industrial dispute? Conciliation, machineries for set, everything laid down in the Industrial Disputes Act. Rather, it is the backbone of the Indian industry. We come to 1948, so many other labor laws came into picture. Minimum Wages Act. Well, yes, minimum wages have to be paid. Then we had the Factories Act, safety and health conditions. What is a factory? Everything is laid down. And again, time further. And then we have, say, 1952, we had the Provident Fund Act. 1955, we had the States Reorganization Commission. And then we coming to, say, 1961, we had the Maternity Benefit Act, as well as the Apprentices Act also. 1965, we had the Bonus Act. How much bonus is to be paid? What is the minimum bonus? What is the maximum bonus? Everything laid down. 1970, friends, we had the Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act. It's widely used now, the Act. 1971, in state of Maharashtra, Government of Maharashtra passed the Maharashtra Recognition of Trade Unions and Prevention of Unfair Labor Practices Act 1971. This act has become so popular. It contains a schedule of unfair labor practices. And this is now included in the 5th schedule of the Industrial Disputes Act, meaning thereby all unfair labor practices all over India remain the same. 1972, friends, we had the Payment of Gratuity Act, that if I put in 5 years of continuous service at my retirement, death, superannuation, I must get my gratuity. 1976, we had the Equal Remuneration Act. Likewise, many laws were still drafted. These are only some major ones which I am telling you, just to get us a traverse of the journey of all the enactments. Some judgments were also passed. 1978, we had the famous judgment, that is Bangalore Water Works and Sewerage Board versus Rajappa. And then time flowed further. And very lately, we have in 2013, the Sexual Harassment of Women Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. Something to do to maintain and uphold the dignity of the woman. And then the laws, these are only the major ones which I have told you. There are many others also. Bonded Labour Act and BD and CIGAR and building and construction, so on and so forth, friends. But then this is just a journey of the enactments, is whatever is the possible time. Of course, we are going to come up with all videos on each and every act which I mentioned. Okay. But then this was just a journey of enactment starting from 1600, which I started. And we are in 2021. And now we are having the labor codes which are knocking our doors. The rules have been made in some of the states. Some of the states have not made the rules. So we are yet awaiting the rules so that there could be a uniformity. But then everything would be by way of separate and independent videos on each and every aspect of labor laws. Thank you, friends.